Hey guys, it's Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And if you get anything from my work, an epiphany, a mind-blown moment, a new book to read, a new author to explore, please consider supporting my work. All the links are at the bottom of this video. So I did a very short Blavatsky video. And I was sitting and looking at what I want to do next with my artwork. As we can see, I have nowhere to put the settled artwork, so it's now on the desk for now. Keep it safe. And texting some people, and then hi, Spirit, what's up? The Hermit's journey. So yesterday I did an interview, kind of like a roundtable, chillax kind of style, but the Time Is Now podcast. Love those guys. Please go subscribe. If you are on Rumble, go watch. It's really good. Hard to see myself. And I had gremlins yesterday. Gremlins stopped my Zoom intertwining, and my internet's fine. So gremlins didn't want my words to come out. Kind of why I do videos more than I go live. Anywho, we start at the allegory of the cave. We emerge. Though there is something there where you are looking and seeing the reflection, and then you start seeing the reality of things. The journey of a hermit, and for most of us who are literally solely alone and not with other people in and around your environment, have a greater, it's not an advantage, but a capacity to be by yourself in totality, no other physical beings around you. And I'll get to the people who feel alone around the people, but focusing on, in this moment in time, the person that there's no human beings around you. The advantage there is that you have the capability of going within a lot more frequently than those of other people. That opens up an avenue of healing work, reflection, pondering, and being within your own thoughts. That alone is its own journey. That alone is a journey that is a painful one. It's a depressing one. It's hard because you don't have another person to reflect back to you a response. You yourself have to have that response. What we're going through in this time of now is difficult. The paradigm is falling apart. The programming, the indoctrination that we have all been programmed with, and it between books, what you learned in school, what you are embracing as your paradigm in life, all of it in essence is a program. The matrix is a bunch of numbers. It's an ontological, holographic, simulated matrix. And in order for us to move in a direction, we have to fight that matrix system. We're still in it, and you're not escaping. Healing is a journey, and it's a long journey. It doesn't end. It gets more complicated as we go, as we get older, as we have more life experience. What we are going through in society right now is a whole bunch of unknowns. The ways in which we are opening and expanding our consciousness is changing as well. We are all being begged to go within, and I always say, please go within. And the reason why is because there is so many people who are still in their programming. We all are. They're just not doing the inner work to understand and research and look at different directions. People are just holding on to other people's words without doing the work themselves, without gaining those experiences, without gaining those wisdoms that they need. One of my viewers, was upset that I don't reference, or not necessarily reference, but, don't hold the Bible. Well, if I grew up in Judaism, the Bible wasn't the book in my house. What happens if you grow up Muslim? The Bible is not in your house. What happens if you grow up a monk? What happens if you grow up in Hindu? What if you Tao, Buddhism? We all hold sacred scripture. Either you hold it or you don't. I choose not to hold on. I don't discount it. But with the research that I have done in my life, there's a lot of things in those books that I don't agree with. The words might be beautiful. The quotations might be beautiful. And if you would like to hold on to those things, you can. No one's stopping you. And if that's the paradigm you want to subscribe to, that's beautiful. No one's taking that from you. Just have the open mind and open perspective to take new information in. This is what's happening with the awakening right now. We're all awakening to different things. We're all just stepping into the shallow end of a pool, unknowing, can't see the bottom of the deep end. We don't know what's there. It could be a shark, it could be a crocodile, who knows? But we just we dipped our foot in. And for many of us, we have to go into society blindly, not knowing if the words that you reflected in yourself is going to be able to be reflected outward in a positive manner, which your light to shine. For those of you who feel alone within people being around you, still sucks. They think you're crazy. They think they don't have open minds like you. They're a part of your plan for other reasons, for other lessons, and for whatever challenges. You are their teacher. And sometimes they're not going to wake up this time. A lot of people are not meant to. Don't hold that to somebody. You can't force anybody to do anything. You can only seed. And that's what I like to do and try on this channel, is seed people ideas, seed people new books and new perceptions and hopes that the larger picture starts opening up for you. If we don't have the larger picture and we don't have tools and guides and ways and stories to walk your, I'm hoping when I'm reading these stories, you're walking yourself in that character through the journey. Manly P. Hall's book, the Hermit's journey, is the way of the lonely ones. Momentous stories to challenge and to teach you and steer you how to go about the world in not the greatest language, but still witty and wise. I was going to hold off on this video. It was. I was going to do it tomorrow. But I'm praying that the medium comes through tomorrow because he's been under attack. So we'll see what happens with my reading. And if I'm doing a video tomorrow, we'll see. But I wanted to get another one in because I saw this. I've read this book in college, and it changed a lot for me. That's why I'm reading it. But this one is on redemption. When Zarathustra crossed over the great bridge, one day, the cripples and beggars surrounded him, and a hunchback spoke to him thus, quote, "Behold, Zarathustra, the people too learn from you and come to believe in your doctrine. But before they will believe you entirely, one thing is still needed. You must first persuade us cripples." Now here you have a fine selection and verily an opportunity with more than one handle. You can heal the blind and make the lame walk, and from him who has too much behind him, you could perhaps take away a little. That, I think, would be the right way to make the cripples believe in Zarathustra. Pause here. Very important. As you're healing and going through and finding out what you are in a soul essence, that's your truth. Whatever you are drawn to, whatever you are into, that's your truth. That's your perspective. What many people like myself come into conflict with is people who need tangible evidence. Anybody can make claims on what they are, and some people are scam artists. Some people are just using their ego to try to sucker you into something. And that's where your discernment needs to come in to play, because we are in duality. There are negative and positive things. And there are people playing positive roles that are negative. We're seeing this in the political spectrum right now. My tangible evidence for those who've seen it, I put my energy and cleared an RV for a tour, that they were under attack from the unseen. Their RV kept breaking down, and I blessed it, and they never had a problem from that point on forward, and they got to all their destinations. And I then said, I am showing you what I just did worked. Tangible evidence. The Stargate. I have the picture. I've shown it many times on this channel of, I didn't put the address because I don't need evil things knowing exactly where. They could figure it out. But I showed my address. I have my learner's permit up here. They took my ID when I transferred to Indiana, but I still have my driver's license from New York, and I have the map. I have the proof, and I have pictures of what was coming out of that portal. So there's tangible evidence. Not everybody's going to get tangible evidence. Not everybody is going to be able to validate. When people ask me to do a reading on them, I'm not a medium like that. I can only get what spirit is giving me, and it's usually me channeling information, not necessarily me going to grandma and saying, hey grandma, what's up? I don't do that kind of stuff. I will eventually, if I'm meant to. A few people said I will be able to eventually, but right now what I am is what I am, and what you are is what you are, and it's a perfectly beautiful spectrum of light. Trying to wake others up, trying to see the truth in humanity. And truth is going to look different for everybody, but it's coming and compromising what we know that has documentation and tangible evidence, even if it was 1984, there's still truth in there enough to say, hey, here. It's hard when people can't see the unseen. And it's easy for people who can, because then they know that you're not lying because they could see it too. But normal, regular people can't see because they just don't have the eyes for it, or the ears for it, or they're not using all their five senses. So just know the difficulty is there. But if you have the heart, the integrity, and the will to move forward and push through the adversity, that's all that matters. You give your hardest try. You're putting yourself out there. You don't need to put yourself out on video, but you put yourself out there. I mean, how many times in my life have I been laughed at? I've been cursed at. I've been called horrendous things. I don't let it bother me. Who cares? Why do you care what other people think of you? You shouldn't. Then if you do, you got to go and heal that part of yourself that is accepting people's negative wording, spell casting. But Zarathustra replied thus to the man who had spoken. Quote, when one takes away the hump from the hunchback, one takes away his spirit. Thus teach the people. And when one restores his eyes to the blind, man, he sees too many wicked things on earth, and he will curse whoever healed him. But whoever makes the lame walk does him the greatest harm. For when he can't walk, his vices run away with him. Thus teach the people about cripples. And why should Zarathustra not learn from the people when the people learn from Zarathustra? But this is what matters least to me, since I have been among men, to see that this one lacks an eye, and that one an ear, and a third leg, while there are others who have lost their tongues, or their noses, or their heads. I see and have seen what is worse, and many things so vile that I do not want to speak of everything. And what concerning some things, I do not even like to be silent. For there are human beings who lack everything except one thing of which they have too much. Human beings who are nothing but a big eye, or a big mouth, or a big belly, or anything at all that is big. Inverse cripples, I call them. And when I came out of my solitude and crossed over this bridge for the first time, I did not trust my eyes, and looked again, and said at last, an ear as big as a man. I looked still more closely, and indeed underneath the ear something was moving, something pitifully small and wretched and slender. And no doubt of it, the tremendous ear was attached to a small, thin stalk. But this stalk was a human being, If one used a magnifying glass, one could even recognize a tiny, envious face. Also, that a bloated little soul was dangling from the stalk. The people, however, told me that this great ear was not only a human being, but a great one, a genius. But I never believed the people when they spoke of great men, and I maintain my belief that if it was an inverse cripple who had too little of everything and too much of one thing. When Zarathustra had spoke thus to the hunchback, and to those whose mouthpiece and advocate the hunchback was, he turned to his disciples in profound dismay and said, "Verily, my friends, I walk among men, as among the fragments and limbs of men. This is what is terrible for my eyes, that I find men in ruins and scattered as over a battlefield or a butcher field. And when my eyes flee from the now to the past, they always find the same fragments and limbs and dreadful accidents, but no human beings. Now the past on earth, alas, my friends, that is what I find most unendurable, and I should not know how to live if I were not also a seer of that which must come, a seer, a willer, a creator, a future himself, and a bridge to find the future. And alas, also, as it were, a cripple at this bridge. All this is Zarathustra." And we're walking through on that bridge right now. And you have too, have often asked yourselves, who is this Zarathustra to us? What shall we call him? And myself, you reply to yourselves with questions. Is he a promiser or a fulfiller, a conqueror or an inheritor, an autumn or a plowshare, a physician, or one who has recovered? Is he a poet, a truthful, a liberator, or a tamer, good or evil? I walk among men as among the fragments of the future, that future which I envisage. And this is all my creating and striving, that I create and carry together into one what is fragment and riddle and dreadful accident. And how could I bear to be a man if men were not also a creator and a guesser of riddles and redeemer of accidents? To redeem those who live in the past and to recreate all it was into a thus I will it, that alone shall I call redemption. Will, that is the name of the liberator and joy bringer. Thus I taught you, my friends. But now learn this too. The will itself is still a prisoner. Willing liberates, but what is it that puts even the liberator himself in fetters? It was. That is the name of the will's gnashing of the teeth and most secret melancholy, powerless against what has been done. He is an angry spectator of all that is past. The will cannot will backwards, and that he cannot break time and time's covertness. That is the will's loneliest melancholy. Willing liberates. What means does the will devise for himself to get rid of his melancholy and to mock his dungeon? Alas, every prisoner becomes a fool, and the imprisoned will redeem himself foolishly. That time does not run backwards. That is his wrath. That which was is the name of the stone he cannot move. And so he moves stones out of the wrath and displeasure, and he wreaks revenge on whatever does not feel wrath and displeasure as he does. Thus the will of the liberator took to hurting, and on all who can suffer he wreaks revenge for his inability to go backwards. This indeed, this alone is what revenge is. The will's ill will against time, and it was. Verily, a great folly dwells in our will, and it has become a curse for everything human that this folly has acquired spirit. The spirit of revenge, my friends, has so far been the subject of man's best reflection. And where there was suffering, one always wanted punishment too. For punishment is what revenge calls itself. With a hypocritical lie, it creates a good conscience for itself. And I actually put this next quote in my little brackets because I thought it was that good. Because there is suffering in those who will, inasmuch as they cannot will backwards. Willing itself in all life was supposed to be a punishment. And now cloud upon cloud rolled over the spirit until eventually madness preached. Everything passes away. Therefore, everything deserves to pass away. And this too is justice, this law of time, that it must devour its children. Thus preached madness. Things are ordered morally according to justice and punishment. Alas, where is redemption from the flux of things and from the punishment called existence? Thus preached madness. Can there be redemption if there is eternal justice? Alas, the stone it was cannot be moved. All punishments must be eternal too. Thus preached madness. No deed can be annihilated. How can it be undone by punishment? This is what is eternal in the punishment called existence. That existence must eternally become deed and guilt again, unless the will should at last redeem himself, and the willing should become not willing. But my brothers, you know this fable of madness. I led you away from these fables when I taught you the will is a creator. All it was is a fragment, a riddle, a dreadful accident, until the creative will say to it, but thus I willed it. Until the creative will say to it, but thus I will it, thus shall I will it. But has the will yet spoken thus? And when will that happen? Has the will been unharnessed yet from his own folly? Has the will yet become his own redeemer and joy bringer? Has he unlearned the spirit of revenge and all gnashing of teeth? And who taught him reconciliation with time and something higher than any reconciliation? For that will, which is the will to power, must will something higher than any reconciliation. But how shall this be brought about? Who could teach him also to will backwards? At this point in his speech, it happened that Zarathustra suddenly stopped and looked altogether like one who has received a severe shock. Appalled, he looked at his disciples, his eyes pierced through thoughts, and thoughts behind their thoughts as with arrows. But after a little while, he laughed again, and pacified, he said, "It is difficult to live with people because silence is so difficult, especially for one who is garrulous." Thus spoke Zarathustra. The hunchback, however, had listened to this discourse and covered his face the while. But when he heard Zarathustra laugh, he looked up curiously and said slowly, "But why does Zarathustra speak otherwise to us than to his disciples?" Zarathustra answered, "What is surprising in that? With hunchbacks, one may well speak in a hunchback way. Verily, there is yet a future for evil too, and the hottest south has not yet been discovered for men. How many things are now called grossest wickedness and are yet only 12 shoes wide and 3 months long? One day, however, bigger dragons will come into this world. For in order that the overman shall not lack his dragon, the overdragon, that is worthy of him. Much hot sunshine must yet glow upon dampened jonquils. Your wildcats must first turn into tigers, and your poisonous toads into crocodiles, for the good hunter shall have good hunting. Verily, you who are good and just, there is much about you that is laughable, and especially your fear of that which is hereto being called devil. What is great is an alien in your souls, that the overman would be awesome to you in his kindness. And you who are wise and knowing, you would flee from the burning sun of that wisdom in which the overman joyously bathes his nakedness. Your highest men whom my eyes have seen, this is my doubt concerning you and my secret laughter. I guess that you could call me my overman devil. Alas, I have wearied of these highest and best men. From their height I long to get up, out and away to the overman. A shudder came over me when I saw these best ones naked. Then I grew wings to soar off into far distances, into more distant futures, into more southern souths than any artist could ever dream of, where gods are ashamed of all clothes, but I want to see you disguised, my neighbors and my fellow men, and well decked out in vain and dignified as the good and the just. And I myself want to sit among the disguised, misjudging you and myself, for that is the final instance of my human prudence. Thus spoke Zarathustra. I'll read one more. The Wanderer. And that's where a lot of us are at this point in time as well. It was about midnight when Zarathustra started across the ridge of the island so that he might reach the other coast by early morning, for there he wanted to embark. There he would find a good roadstead where foreign ships too like to anchor, and they often took along people who wanted to cross the sea from the Blessed Isles. Now, as Zarathustra was climbing the mountain, he thought how often since his youth he had wandered alone, and how many mountains and ridges and peaks he had already climbed. This is another one I put some marks on. I am a wanderer and a mountain climber, he said to his heart. I do not like the plains, and it seems I cannot sit still for long. And whatever may yet come to me as destiny and experience will include some wandering and mountain climbing. In the end, one experiences only oneself. It's true. The time is gone when mere accidents could still happen to me, and what could still come to me now that was not mine already. What returns, what finally comes home to me is my own self, and what of myself has long been in strange lands and scattered among all things and accidents and further things. I know I stand before my final peak now and before that which has been saved up for me the longest. Alas, now I must face my hardest path. Alas, I have begun my loneliest walk, but whoever is of my kind cannot escape such an hour, the hour which says to him, only now are you going your way to greatness. Peak and abyss, they are now joined together. You are going your way to greatness now. That which has hereto been your ultimate danger has become your ultimate refuge. You are going your way to greatness. Now this must give you the greatest courage that there is no longer any path behind you. You are going your way to greatness. Here nobody shall sneak after you. Your own foot has effaced the path behind you, and over it there is written impossibility. And if you now lack all ladders, then you must know how to climb on your own head. How else would you want to climb upward? On your own head and away over your own heart. Now what was gentlest in you must still become the hardest. He who has always spared himself much will in the end become sickly of so much consideration. Praised be what hardens. I do not praise the land where butter and honey flow. One must learn to look away from oneself in order to see much. This hardness is necessary to every climber of mountains. But the lover of knowledge who is obtrusive with his eyes now could he see more of all things than their foregrounds. But you, O Zarathustra, wanted to see the ground and background of all things. Hence you must climb over yourself, upward, up until even your stars are under you. Indeed, to look down upon myself and even upon my stars, that alone I shall call my peak. That has remained for me as my ultimate peak. Thus spoke Zarathustra to himself, as he was climbing, comforting his heart with hard maxims, for his heart was sore as never before. And when he reached the height of the ridge, behold, the other sea lay spread about before him. And he stood still and remained silent a long time, but the night was cold and at this height, and the clear and starry bright. I recognize my lot, he finally said sorrowfully. Well, I am ready. Now my ultimate loneliness has begun. Alas, this black, sorrowful sea below me. Alas, this pregnant nocturnal dismay. Alas, destiny and sea, to you I must now go down. Before my highest mountain I stand, and before my loneliest wandering, to that end, I must first go down deeper than I had descended, deeper into the pain that ever I descended, down into this blackest flood. Thus my destiny wants it. Well, I am ready. Whence come the highest mountain, I asked. Then I learned that they can come out of the sea. The evidence is written in their rocks, in the walls of their peaks. It comes out of the deepest depth, that the highest must come to its heights. Thus spoke Zarathustra on the peak of the mountain, where it was cold. But when he came close to the sea and at last stood alone among the cliffs, he had become weary from walking and even more full of longing than before. Everything is still asleep now, he said. Even the sea is asleep. Drunk with sleep and strange it looks at me. But its breath is warm that I feel. And I also feel that it is dreaming. In its dreams, it tosses on hard pillows. Listen, listen! How it groans with evil memories or evil forebodings. Alas, I am sad with you, you dark monster, and even annoyed with myself for your sake. Alas, that my hand does not have strength enough. Verily, I should like to deliver you from evil dreams. And Zarathustra was speaking thus, he laughed at himself in melancholy and bitterness. What, Zarathustra, he said, would you sing comfort even to the sea? Oh, you loving fool. Zarathustra, you are trust overfull. But thus have you always been. You have always approached everything terrible trustfully. You have wanted to pet every monster, a whiff of warm breath, a little soft tuft on the paw, and at once you were ready to love and lure it. Love is the danger of the loneliness. Love of everything, if only it is alive. Laughable, verily, are my folly and my modesty in love. Thus spoke Zarathustra and laughed for a second time. But then he recalled his friends whom he had left, and as if he had wronged them with his thoughts, he was angry with himself for his thoughts. And soon it happened that he who had laughed wept. From wrath and longing, Zarathustra wept bitterly. And those two stories, there's so much to unpack. But most of that is what we're all traversing right now. Many of us are going and doing the inner work and trying to heal the triggers and the things that bother us, the things that were in our childhood, our subconscious, things that we don't realize are there until they pop up. And it's like, what? Left field. Many of us have traversed the abyss. Many of us have been to the blackest, deepest parts of our soul. But with all that great experience, with all that great pain, with every ounce of experience that we have had, the loss, the hurt, the trauma, when we heal it and let it go and forgive it in ourselves and send love to the recipient if they were the one who was in harm's way, you could forever walk forward, not backwards. You are only here in the present right now. All your past is back there. You ain't going back. You're only moving forward. You got to release the things that no longer serve you. You got to release the things that trigger you. You can't control any other person. You can only control your thoughts and yourself. Unless you are deeply in mind control, or you have alters, or you have split personalities, that's difficult. I'm talking about mostly regular people. We're going through a dark night of the soul as humanity. Each and every one of us are healing things, and it doesn't matter where you are, if you're at a beginner level to expert level, it doesn't matter. Healing is healing, forgiving is forgiving, releasing is releasing, whatever it is, however deep it is. But your experience, whatever you went through, shapes you, molds you, makes you stronger. Don't let it make it don't let that experience make you weaker. And why I say that is because what you've walked through, other people will walk through. Other people will experience. And because you made it out alive, you made it out stronger, you made it out and moved forward, are you able to help walk and steer another person through it that might not have the strong will that you do? One of my best friends is going through what I went through 6 years ago when my mother passed away. Both her parents are sick, and she has a lot of things that are on her plate. And I told her 6 years ago, when that time comes, I'm here to help you. I can, on a clear head, tell you the things that I thought and deemed useful for at the end of my parents' life, what needed to be done legally, what you need, attorneys, what the insurances might be able to offer, tools in the house. You know, I didn't have anybody helping and steer me to be a home health care aide, to how to toilet my mother, how to put socks on my father, what was the best chairlift for the house, what was the best device for the toilet. No one steered me. I did all that research. But now, all that hard work, and it's not pleasant to think back on those things, but it helps other people. My way of grieving, my way of letting my parents go, knowing that they're probably right behind me or near me, they're always with me. Other people mourn differently. It's okay. But being of sound mind when life is throwing you insanity, you are a guide to others that don't have that strong will and that can't hold themselves together. Because you know exactly what they're going through and that feeling. It might not be the same situation, but you know emotionally what all that stuff brings up. You are stronger to give sound advice. You're sound at mind. While they're in the thick of it, you can be their shoulder, you can be their rock. We're going to have to be that mountain together when things start really coming and unfolding in humanity. Many of us have studied, researched, and read enough to help steer people that are curious and willing to have an open mind. Many of us who have been out of the cave a very long time will be guiding those to safer refuge. We all are going to do this. That's why I made this series. We're all going to walk with our experience, what our lessons were we learned, and we're going to impart that lesson on someone else. We're going to express what is going on. But you got to redeem yourself first. You got to do the work. You got to love yourself. You have to have your cup full. And this is a very difficult time right now because there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of retrogrades. And again, because I read a comment on one of the on this The Time Is Now podcast, the show that I was on the other day. I read, well, that retrograde stuff and that is not my cup of tea. I don't really subscribe to any of that. It doesn't affect my paradigm, and it doesn't have to. Shouldn't have to. Some people, I read into it. I don't go fully into my astral chart, but I know when certain things are going on in my life, and then I look up the Schumann resonance and go, oh, I only do it after the fact. I don't do it well, there's a spike. I should utilize this right now. That's not how it works. I usually, like the other day, I was like outside with spray paint and my installation foam. I did like half of this stuff, like, I have to layer it. And I was going bananas the other day. I didn't know where I got the spark of creation or inspiration and the energy to do it. Morgan's been keeping me up at night. She's, and I have a feeling it's soon, like it's any day now. She's going to pass. But in the meantime, I want to keep her comfortable. She keeps me up all night. Like she's literally sitting on my chest looking at me, like pawing me, mommy, mommy, mommy. But I didn't know where I got that. And then I was like, oh, you know what? Let me check the Schumann. Oh, it spikes. So that stuff does affect us. It affects me. It might not affect you, but I know it affects me in a positive way. The retrograde, I mean, proof in the pudding. I didn't even realize, I thought they were paused. I was the paused one. Gremlins are attacking me, and my really good points didn't get out because I froze. That's Mercury retrograde at its finest right there. That stuff affects me. It might not affect you. It's the paradigm you perceive, and that's okay. When you let go of everything and open up your cup so that it can be filled, you heal your heart, and you take notice on what's going on in humanity, but you don't absorb it, you'll be better off. I, in the last few months, have stopped watching all the videos I used to watch. I kind of stopped. I'm like, this is a little too much. It's a little too much overload. I sit more in meditation, and sometimes my meditations are 5 minutes, sometimes they're an hour and a half. It depends where my mind and spirit wants to take me. Sometimes I do guided meditations at night because I can't get to sleep. All right, and then they walk you through, and then I'm out. You got to do you, and you have to be strong in your convictions. we're all here doing this together. There's no right or wrong way of doing. Being alone, you don't have another person to give you a perspective or a bounce back, a seesaw, back and forth. Like, it's just you. That's the hardest part. You know, most people that are married have another person to talk to, at least converse with. In more of that stuff is more private and personal. Those people that, like myself, don't have that. I'm not airing my dirty laundry out even to my best friends. Like, I want to do that with the one and only person that should be knowing my dirty laundry. I don't have really dirty laundry. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to divulge personal stuff. But if you have somebody in your life and you have a good, happy marriage, even if you're different and you don't really talk about, or you have adverse things, you still have somebody there. When you are literally alone, you're bouncing back at yourself. So give yourself some grace. Give yourself love. You gotta love yourself, and you gotta fill that heart. You have to unlock this. This is a heart chakra. My heart chakra was closed for a very long time. Very, very, very long time. Not because I didn't love myself. I have a hard time letting others in. I had to put a wall up for a very long time because I kept getting hurt. Because when I opened that window just a peep to let a little bit in, I got destroyed. I had to relearn how to build my barrier and boundaries so that I can let people in. But as soon as I know something's, that door shuts. So I can still let people in. They got to earn this. Life is rough. We're all walking this journey together, whether you are by yourself or whether you are with other people and they might be sleepy. We're all traversing this all together. So let's take the gems of wisdom from this book and manly p-holes. But the last two sections are what is happening right now. And what we're all feeling and going through. It might not be the descriptive words that you might choose to use, but it's still really good advice and really good wisdom to take into consideration. I hope that each and every one of you, if you need to talk, my schedule's a bit busy right now, but I will eventually get back to you. I have someone's email right here. I found my post-it note. So I'm going to get that back to them tomorrow. Finally found it. So I am sorry to that person. You'll know who you are when I message you. I wrote down your email and it got disappeared amongst the array of fun. But guys, sending each and every one of you love and light. Please be safe, be seen. Please do your work. Right now is like this period where we need to make sure that we are clear of the past gunky stuff, because we're not going back there. We're only moving forward. We're going in the forward direction. We're not going back. Don't look back. Heal, understand the experience that you had, what was the lesson, and then move it forward. We're not going back there anymore. So stop being stuck back there. We got to go forward. Please all have a really wonderful start to your weekend. I will be trying to meditate a lot tomorrow to move, hopefully influence that storm to not hit land. I'll know so much about hurricanes. I had Hurricane Sandy and all the hundreds of hurricanes that hit New York. That one was the worst, and I don't wish that on anybody. So I'm hoping that can move it, lessen it, whatever. But I'm praying for everybody that's in the path of that storm and the other storms to come. Sending each and every one of you love, light, shielding, and protection. Please make sure you're doing that protection every day. Do the work. And I hope to see you guys on the next one. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Amish Mindset. Okay, guys.